Warning: the following contains explicit language and subject matter that may not be suitable for younger listeners, church folk, and people who enjoy kale smoothies.
But all right, so we're rolling a little bit now. I'm gonna give my little intro.
Give it a go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to APodAmongstMen. I'm your host, Steve B, and this is Coffee Break Conversations for the 21st Century. As you can see, we're back in the studio. It's been a few months now. My first guest back is my friend Ryan Ozolins. You're a local business owner.
That's true.
Owner of the Good Donut Shop.
The Good Donut Shop, yeah.
So we know each other. You went to Bridgewater, correct?
I did.
I think you graduated a year ahead of me.
I was 2002.
Yeah, I was 03.
Oh, okay.
So, there you go.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm a local guy. Yeah. But our sons are friends in the school, so we kind of got drawn back into it. So do you want to give a little introduction, like kind of tell the listeners who you are, where you're from? Like
so
little
what
fun
you already
facts.
know now about me, I grew up in Bridgewater. My wife and I met when we were in high school, and then we were best friends for like 8 years. Mm-hmm. Before we started dating. We were off and on back again talking about dating or not dating, and we each took turns saying no. And then so when we finally did start dating, we're like, all right, this is going to be marriage. So actually we agreed to go on the date, and before we even got there, I started, all right, what can I sell to go buy her a ring? Because I know this.
You're already looking to pawn things.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was like the way it happened was we were living in Massachusetts.
Okay.
This is not the story you asked for.
No, go ahead. I mean,
yeah.
let it roll, man.
So we were both from New Jersey. We both went to the same college, didn't hang out with the same friends or anything, and both took on jobs up there. And I picked up the phone to call her one day and be like, look, I think I'm done with Massachusetts. I was going to call you to say, I don't know where I'm going next, but I can't stay here. She's like, I was just going to call you with the same thing. So I was like, well, we should get together and talk about this.
We should definitely get married right away.
That was it. Because she really liked her work and her community that she was in, and mine was the opposite. I didn't really, I was having a tough time. And we got together and like, well, I think the next phase of life involves you. So we got dated for a little bit, but we both knew I was heading to marriage anyway because we had already been each other's best friends for 8 years. So, we got married, moved back to New Jersey, and we both said, well, where in the world would you want to live? And we both kept saying, well, someplace like Somerville. Yeah. So why not Somerville?
Yeah, why not the real thing?
Yeah, so we came back here. Through over the couple of years, we figured out what we wanted to do with life. She became a social worker. I worked my way through grad school, cleaning up basements and fire, mold, crime scene, sewer backups, like hoarder houses.
Oh wow,
real messy stuff.
You went right into the fire on that one.
Yeah, that was. I mean, all that's recent history. The real coursework of my life is youth ministry and community development, youth at risk. Mm-hmm. So that's what my undergrad was in. And then I worked my way through grad school doing the cleanups. But the grad school work was on community development, working with churches, working with people, nonprofits. That's really what I wanted to do. So I was connecting the dots of like, what shape is that going to take? Am I going to be going to work at a church, mm-hmm. work in a counseling center? What is it that it's going to be? So probably my third year into seminary, I went out to visit a church in Oregon that I thought was doing really good work. And we stopped in at this little donut shop to talk about what the church was doing. And then it just clicked. It connected the dots. Like, I don't want to work in like a formal church setting. I want to run a donut shop where I can add tangible value to my community, give really, really good work experience to kids for their first time ever, give great work experience to somebody who's retiring, and connect a retired person with a first time job person. And it just clicked. Like, this is it. all the work that I wanted to do with community development, youth work, at risk work, it is like, oh, it needs to be in a business.
This is like the perfect crossroads of all those different avenues.
Connected the dots. Like, we can give people the best job experience of their life, and show them what work could be, what work should be, and then also inspire other businesses to do likewise.
So why donuts specifically? Just that was like your inspiration from the shop you saw?
Clicked. Yeah, I had no interest in donuts. What actually hooked me into the store was they did chai.
Okay. Chai donuts?
No, chai tea.
Oh,
chai
okay.
tea. I don't have a sweet tooth or anything, so when I went into the store, it was just to get chai. The owner of the shop found out that it was my birthday week, and he's like, "Oh, well, we give out donuts to people for their birthday. Any day within 7 days of your birthday, it says on your license, we'll just give you donuts." I'm like, I really didn't want any. He's like, "Here, they're on us," and he brought out this whole plate of donuts for free. He sat at the table with us, treated me like I was the most important person on planet Earth, looked me right in the eye, and had a conversation like he was in no hurry to go anywhere else because this was important to him. And that's really what clicked to me. Like, you could slow somebody down on the West Coast. That was kind of normal. You walk into a sandwich shop and they're like, "Oh, who are you? Why are you here? Tell me about your thoughts and your hopes for life." It's like, I just want to get a sandwich.
It's so different from East Coast, you know.
That's what clicked. Was like, oh, East Coast, it's get out of the way. Next person in line, please. But the way,
how you doing? Hey, get him the food. Get him the bread and the butter. Now you get him the check. Okay.
Yeah, you're not going
here.
fast enough. Let's go.
It's all about turnover.
Yeah. So when I saw like Nate did that with me and sat me down, slowed me down, served me a plate of free donuts because it was my birthday, wanted to hear everything about me. I was like, whoa, all right. He is making donuts and doing the like real heart to heart work that like is hard to do in a church setting or in a counseling setting where there's all this stigma around it. And I'm like, this makes sense. This is non-threatening. You can actually talk to people. Because like part of my frustrations with working in a church is it's stigmatizing. Like if you've been burned by the church before or had a bad experience with religion, you won't go in, even though there's valuable stuff and it might be a safe place. It's going to scare you away.
Definitely.
But you walk into a donut shop. And
who's had a bad experience at a donut shop?
So it's not like a trap. It's slowing people down to have a real meaningful connection. We're asking questions that are getting at your heart. Like, why are you here? What brought you to the West Coast on your birthday weekend? How'd you wind up in this donut shop? Like,
well, that's interesting. You said it's not like a trap. Like that's how people would view it. I mean, listen, I'm not religious in any way, but I can. I can respect the people that are within the church and within different religions trying to do the good work, the community service, helping people, the counseling. Like, those are all good regardless of any kind of, theologic affiliations. But that's an interesting idea, too, that you disarm people, essentially, by catching them kind of off guard, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean,
but you're trying to do it.
It's what drives me. It's like it's the noble cause of the business. Like, for me, this is important. This is my worldview. This is how I see things. But I'm not going to shove it down your throat. Like, you're going to get donuts and be treated with a lot of respect and dignity. Like, you're the most important person. So everybody I talk to or everybody that works with us knows that's what I expect. Like, we want to treat each person like they're the most important person you're going to talk to that day. So we find little ways to slow people down. We tell a bad joke, you get a good donut. Instead of just like take a free sample and walk away, it's let's have a little meaningful interaction and some memorable moment here.
Well, I think that's I'm definitely seeing that kind of approach a lot more, whereas people are opening businesses and it's not just that corporate feel. Like, like come in, you buy your stuff, here's your receipt, goodbye. Yeah. Like, it's almost, you see banks and stuff, they focus on customer service and actually talking to people, and you're dealing with a real human being. Yep. And I feel like that's one of the benefits of small business is you can actually take the time to do that and follow that direction. Like, you see that with a lot of startups now in the city. They try to make it more about, having an experience, just morale. Yeah. You're letting people be human beings. You're not just a cog in the machine.
That's right. And you can tell when it's genuine. When it's not.
Well, everybody knows when they're being like patronized. Yeah. But I feel, that's one of the things I love about this town, especially. You don't really, you have a Starbucks and a Dunkin' Donuts on Main Street. Everything else is independently owned.
That's right. There's no change really.
There isn't. There's not one. ShopRite, I guess that counts as one. But
Playa Bowls came in, but they're a Jersey brand, so they're on Main Street. Playa Bowls. What else? Rita's is also, I think, a New Jersey brand, isn't it? Rita's.
Oh, that's true. Okay, we have Rita's, but I think that they might venture into PA
and they're locally
well.
owned too. Yeah. So, like, we know that it's a family that owns it. So, yeah, they're good.
So how long ago was this that you started the donut shop?
So I told you before, like, I moved very slowly. That original visit to the donut shop, I think, was 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. And then I stewed on the idea. Right away, I came home and I was like, Katie, you got to try these donuts. Like, we can't afford a plane ticket to go buy these donuts. So we got to figure out how to make them. There's nowhere around here that's doing them. So right away, I started making donuts in the kitchen, trying out every different kind of recipe.
That was your first foray into baked goods.
Yeah. Like, I can cook and I enjoy cooking, but never was really interested in baked goods and stuff. Like, the hook on donuts was it seemed like an easy thing that anybody could do. So that's why I was like, oh, we can teach people to do this, but the real work that we're going to be doing is with communities and with individuals that are working on our staff. So I think that was 6 years ago. And then I sat on the idea for another year and a half. And towards the end of my seminary, I started talking with this professor, Orlando, was his name, Orlando Rivera. And he started putting the idea in my head of like, well, you could do a business that is wildly profitable and makes a difference in your community. So we were talking these big ideas, and this is a lot of where my ideas for work as being something really meaningful comes from, is these conversations with Orlando. So he actually started an organization called the Center for Transformative Work, where it's all about that. Like, you have to spend most of your day doing this something, like, might as well be something meaningful. Or if you can't find meaning in the work itself, then find a way to like add value to the people that you work with. So yeah, there was a lot of that stuff that I was wrestling through as, you know, I'm literally sucking shit out of sewage backed up basements.
Shitter was full.
Yeah. You know, I'd come home from that, like doing all this really heady, like altruistic work at the seminary, and then go and suit up and go in the basement. And people are never happy when their basement's full of sewage.
No, I can understand that.
So when we come over and they're like, the first person they see, it's like we catch all the brunt and the blame, and they're just nasty to us. Like, I had one lady call me like, "You're a shit sucker." I'm like, and that one really hurt, like, because that's all I'm doing all day is like cleaning up a shit-filled basement.
It's a little on the nose.
I went home and I cried. Like, I actually cried about it. Like, just because I'm at this for 4 years. I have these aspirations to run a donut shop and help people, and like, I'm being called a shit sucker cleaning up a shit-filled basement. It sucked.
Yeah, I could see how that would weigh on you at the time.
Yeah, big questions of identity and worth and value and what am I doing with my time, and so trying to find meaning in that moment.
Well, I want to go back to something you said. You were talking, about speaking with Orlando, and he said that you could create a business that's wildly profitable while still serving, the community and having value aside from monetary.
Yeah.
How do you see that? Because not in the sense like how is that possible, but I mean, what's your stance on that? Because a lot of businesses, it's viewed as just like a business is a business. Its goal and its main purpose is to make money,
right?
And that way, in that sense, the money becomes that overrides everything else. Like, it's not about taking care of the employees. It's not about creating real value. It's just about the bottom line.
Yeah.
And I feel like that happens to a lot of places, and it's just that our human proclivity towards greed. It's a real dangerous thing, and I think that a lot of the problems we see in the world can really be traced back to just greed, just unbridled greed, and how it can really distort people's perspectives and how their worldview,
Yeah.
Like, how do you deal with that? Like, especially when it comes to making profits and, seeing where you're going to reinvest money into the company and which ways you're going to spend that money.
My brother-in-law Tommy was living with us when I started the donut shop.
Okay.
We've always done like communal living. We always have an extra room in the house for somebody to live with us. So Tommy was living with us when I started the donut shop, and he's a big heady thinker as well. And he said it this way: he's like, "Look, if you want to do a business with a social cause, there's always some cost to it. But if you're doing the right thing." That cost becomes an investment, so people see your good works, and then it comes back to you, kind of like a karma idea a little bit. The way I've been talking about lately is it feels like every right decision has kind of been like a pebble, and we've just kind of built up this big mountain of pebbles, and we're standing on top of that, and it would be very hard for somebody to come and take that all away. We've done lots of tiny little hidden acts of kindness and good works, and now we're up here on top of this mountain of pebbles of good things.
Oh, I like that analogy. Yeah, I mean, if it's all one thing, all it takes is one thing to come take it out.
Yep.
You know?
But if you're doing the right thing and then the next right thing, somebody said, I haven't seen the movie Frozen, but apparently that's like the theme of Frozen 2.
Didn't see
You
it.
do the next right thing. That's a lot of it. Like, you might not have the big picture, but all right, this is the next thing that I have to do. I'm going to do that right with excellence and integrity and do that. And then the next thing will present itself, and you just do lots of little acts of right, good choices.
Absolutely.
So that conversation with Tommy, he actually followed up on now 3-4 years later with a book recommendation for me, which is called Tribal Leadership. And he said, I read this book with my team, and a lot of what's in the book you're already doing intuitively with the donut shop. So you should put some words and language to it. And I read the book a week or two ago. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. So he said, the book says there's 4 or 5 stages of leadership and organizations. Stage 1 is kind of like gang warfare, survival of the fittest. You're just out for yourself. The world sucks. My life sucks. And I'll do everything that I can to survive. And then the opposite end of that is stage 5, which is like, the world is great and we are great and we're here with this noble cause. Like, our organization exists to defeat cancer. And if there might be like other organizations, Johnson & Johnson's working on it, so is Merck, and this other organization, we're not in competition with them because we're all working towards the same noble cause of ending cancer. So, and then there's degrees in between there. So what most businesses are at, like a stage 3, which is kind of like, I'm great and you suck. We're going to destroy the competition. So we're going to build ourselves up by making other people look bad.
Yeah, it's the Bezos approach.
So then the next stage up from that would be, we are great and everybody in my industry is great. So I'm making donuts. I still admire the work of Pip's Donut Shop out in Portland. And I think he's a perfect example of a stage 4 organization where he's adding value to the industry, and he is a leading voice in our donut industry. He goes out and celebrates other donut shops. He takes pictures of their donuts and him eating them with their owners and tells the story of what's great about their donut shop. And because of that, like, he's risen, 50,000 followers on Instagram, and this recognition where all other people in the donut business look up to Nate Snell. And it's elevating his business, and he's helping other businesses get started, and he's setting this example for how to be a good donut shop.
Well, that's crazy because it's so like counterintuitive to most people's business sense.
Yeah.
Like you're elevating your own competition.
Yeah.
It's you're right. It's you shouldn't view everything as competitions. Like, we're all in this trying to reach the same goal.
For us, like, we're selling to 2 different crowds. Nate's all the way on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast.
Yeah.
We don't have the same customer base. And even locally, like, there's a donut shop. We got Dunkin', we got Tim Hortons, we got Duck Donuts moved in. But people still want donuts, and they still want variety. And so I can celebrate these other donut shops and what they're doing.
Well, I think that goes back to kind of the greed thing. It's like, yeah, he could be all the way, across the country, but what if he wanted to expand? And now he wants to move into this territory and just keep opening up franchises and stuff. And
there's something about him, like, I admire too, because that day when it clicked, I said to him sitting at the table, like, Nate, this makes so much sense to me. If you ever wanted to start this again on the East Coast, I would do all the legwork, and it could be Pip's East Coast. And he's like, no, we don't have any aspirations to do that. We're going to serve our one community well, and inspire other businesses to do likewise. So if you want to do a donut shop, go start a donut shop and do it your own way and run with it.
See, and that's crazy because we're so, like I said, we have that built-in capitalist mentality.
Yeah.
Not that I'm advocating, communism or anything like that, but it's so counterintuitive to what we're used to.
Yeah.
But it's refreshing. And I think that it could serve human beings so much better just to follow that lead.
Yeah.
But, especially if you go to like a business school or something, they're going to drill into your head. Like, this is war. It's kill or be killed out there. Like, it doesn't have to be like that.
We think about having like a framework for what is enough in your life. Like, I've got enough wealth at some point, or I've got enough on my schedule. So like, determine what's your limit and when are you satisfied with it. So like right now, running one little pop-up donut shop is not quite enough for me. Like, I want to get to a storefront. I do want to have, like, I want to inspire other leaders to do similar things. I want to open up a second storefront and see basically the way I see the donut shop for me is it's a gift. And I sat with Emerson one day at Starbucks, probably 2 years ago. I bought him a little $5 pack of Legos, and it was an X-Wing. He had an X-Wing and I had an AT-AT we were putting together at Starbucks. And I was just like, you know what, this is a cool, beautiful moment. Like, this is a gift from the Father, me to my son, and we're enjoying this together. He's going to take these Legos that we built together. He's going to go play them with his friends. And I said, that's what the donut shop is. Like, I see it as a person of faith. I see the donut shop as a gift from my Father in heaven that I am very much enjoying, but I'd be selfish to keep it to myself. I want to, like, every time I go do an event, I want to bring somebody with me so they can play with the donut machine and tell bad jokes with people. So it's a gift that's meant to be shared, not for me to keep it to myself. And there's an idea of, all right, when is enough, and that's when we're gonna like move somebody else along, and you can open up the next good donut shop and enjoy the fun of doing that.
That's a real prescient question, I think. When is enough? I'm sure you've seen these people out there. Just there is no end to that hunger, that desire just to obtain things and stuff and shit.
Just shut off Netflix.
Yeah.
Go enjoy the silence.
But especially as we spend so much of our lives on social media, a lot of us, and we're always trying to keep up with the Joneses,
endless scrolling.
Yeah.
There's no end to that.
It just keeps going. And with money, it's the same thing. Like, we just want more money. We're comfortable, but we want to upgrade now. We want the bigger TV. Now we want the newer car. And it just never stops.
Yeah.
And I think that can be really damaging to our psyche, our mental health, if we're never satisfied. We're always trying to keep up with this, imaginary person that's always doing better than us.
Right.
Because we saw them sitting in an infinity pool on Instagram, and we think, now I need to go find a good vacation spot for some good Instagram pics. But you're not realizing, like, they might be in a fancy pool, but they were there for 10 minutes and then they have to go back to their job, valet parking cars.
Yeah.
But we're only seeing the highlights.
Yep.
And it's
the putting an end cap to it in some sort of regular, predictable way is helpful. Like, we set boundaries. I think our first year of marriage, when I was working with a bunch of kids, like we had a youth group of 20 or 30 kids, and they're up and they'd be texting me late into the night, and my thought was, I got to be ready and available to respond to these kids. And Katie's like, no, you don't. It's 10 o'clock. You're an adult. You're married and you have kids. Shut it off at 10 o'clock. Tell them they can expect to get a text back from you at 10 in the morning. That's realistic. Like, you set the boundaries, and this is the framework. All right, after 10 o'clock, I'm not texting anybody. Like, shut the screen off at this time. One of the things that we practice is like the idea of Sabbath rest. And for us, it's just because it's too much. There's too much going on. If you don't ever stop, you keep going, you'll never get rested. You'll never get recreative activity in your life. So we do it. It's not like super religious in that we're not hard and fast about it being a Sunday or this day or like practice. We just have kind of framework of whatever's going to recreate us. And it's not just resting and staring at a TV thing. You got to do some sort of recreative activity that makes you feel alive again. So gardening for us, anytime I can go out into the woods or by a stream, man, that brings me back to life.
Something about here in that water. It's like, it's rejuvenating. I'm not even like an outdoorsy kind of guy.
Yeah.
But there's something about it. It makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Like, I've never been in a bad mood and been next to like running water.
That's right. I have, because I put myself there. I'm in a bad mood. I need to get near water.
But that's like a healing place.
Yeah.
That's weird. I never even thought about it like that.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, I've never been unhappy. Or
So
at least
we try to do it like once a week. Take a day where there's no responding to emails or phone calls, and we're just together as a family. We're doing something fun. And then once a year we do the vacation thing, and it's a priority for us. Like, even if we can't get a paid vacation, we're like, all right, we're just not going to get paid that week. So we go 2 weeks, and it takes us about a week to settle down and really be present there, to unwind and stop thinking about the things you were thinking about. And then the second week, you're like, oh, I'm fully here. I can feel the sand. I can like be in the water, no thoughts, like. And every important decision in our life has been made at the lake, and during that second week at the lake. So we decided we're going to get married at the lake. We decided, like, Katie's going to go back to school, the donut shop. Every major decision has happened the second week at the lake for us.
Wow. What lake is that?
Lake Ontario.
Okay.
So
It's a big lake.
big lake.
So how do you balance all like the time you spend with work and the business with home life? Because you're a father. You have how many kids now? 3?
We have 2 biological kids and 2 through foster care.
Okay.
So
it's a whole other full-time job at home.
and the quarantine thing doesn't help that. So
Listen, we only have Tyler, and I can only imagine what other families are going through.
Yeah.
It's tough.
right now it's not ideal for anybody. What we found that works for us is Katie's an in-home therapist. Well, right now she's in-home, very in-home therapist. Before the quarantine, she would actually go physically to people's homes and do therapy with them, social work. Now it's all through Zoom and whatever. Not Zoom. It's the medical grade Zoom.
I got you.
So she's doing that in one room of the house for the first half of the week, and I'm on full-time kid duty from morning till night. And then we switch, and I go do donuts over the weekend, and she's on kid duty.
Okay.
So that's how that's been working for now. It's not ideal.
You guys are making it happen, though?
Yeah. We often say we just need 2 fewer kids or 1 more adult, and we could make this happen.
We need to change the ratio a little bit here.
Yeah. But fortunately, the daycares are scheduled to open up soon, and that'll help,
Yeah.
So
I mean, we've been out a little bit. We went down to Jersey City yesterday, and you almost wouldn't even know that there was a quarantine.
Really?
There's a ton of people out. I mean, most of the restaurants were only open for, takeout,
yeah,
but all the food trucks are out, just like normal.
food trucks are the way to be right now. If you're a restaurant and you have a food truck or a trailer, that's your lifeblood right now.
Yeah. I mean, I was lucky that I was deemed essential because apparently high rises still need to go up, which personally I think is a little bit of bullshit. But, at first I was really kind of upset about it. I was like, we're out there every day in construction. There's hundreds of guys on this job, and you can't always stay 6 feet away. So you're kind of forcing us to choose between being unemployed and putting our families at risk.
Yeah.
So it sucks because nobody wants to make that decision.
Yep.
I mean, and at the end of the day, I ended up staying working just because I have a family to support, and who knows when unemployment's going to come if I actually take the layoff.
Wow.
So I ended up being really lucky, and I'm glad that I stayed working. But it's it's stressful, it's scary.
Wow.
For a solid couple months, man, you didn't know what's going to happen. You got to strip down as soon as you get in the house and disinfect your clothes because who knows? Who knows who's coughing, breathing on you?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, I got to imagine that was something that it was a concern for you, especially dealing with customers all day.
I mean, we take all the right precautions. Everybody's wearing masks and gloves, and we're washing our hands. I'm normally very, very concerned about food safety and all that, and then it just the next level up. So I actually didn't change too much from what we normally would do. I always have a glass barrier between us and the customers because we're working with hot oil. So that helps in normal times anyways. It's just all right, great, now that we have that, we were already set up for that.
Gotcha.
So I don't know, the way I would wake up with not really nightmares, but I couldn't sleep. This is in normal times before the quarantine. I'm so I want to make sure that everything is by the book and exactly precise. When I set up the donut shop, I told all of our health and fire inspectors, I said, imagine that your brother-in-law runs a competition donut shop and you are on a mission to find something wrong with my shop. So, shut us down. So that's how I asked the first year of inspections to go. Because every time you set up in a different town, you have to get inspected by their health and their fire. So I was like, this is a cool opportunity to learn what's the best practices from each city and state for health and fire safety. So
I feel that's such a different approach than I would think most business owners take, only because, like we talked about with the money, is no, I want to be open and make money. Whatever I have to do to skate by,
to the minimum.
Exactly, the bare minimum.
I want to be impervious. I want to be invincible. To any health department, anything. We're going to set ourselves up to the highest standard of this is what's required. And there's some towns that just you learn what's actually safe and what's beyond this is not necessary and actually not helpful. So there's one town I just won't go back to because they nickeled and dimed in every little thing. They made me rent this $40 piece of equipment from the town that like no other town requires this. Come on, we're just not going to go back.
This is clearly a cash grab. Yeah.
It was their most health applications when you go into a town is like 1 to 5 pages that you have to fill out. This town had 30 pages plus an in-person meeting, plus you had to have this one thing signed, and what's it called when you get the stamp on it?
Like certified,
notarized. Notarized. Gotcha. So all this stuff, I'm like, this is not worth the day.
Ranting.
I can find any other street fair and go to that one that day. But
go ahead.
No, that's it. I was just saying, like, all I have to say is I try to set before quarantine. We already had really good health and safety protocols, and everybody knows how to wash their hands and how to wear gloves and how frequently to change them. And we had the glass barrier to keep customers safe, and all that is like, I saw that as investment. Like, you have to have this, because what's the cost of a kid looking and trying to reach in and grab a donut from 400 degree oil?
Yeah, can be a pretty big hospital bill.
Yep.
I'm honestly just, I feel refreshed hearing that from a business owner. I just feel like I'm not used to it. That's not the norm, and it should be. It should be.
We inspire other businesses to do likewise. So that's what I'm saying. I want to get the first time jobs, and these guys may not work in the donut shop for the rest of their life, but maybe they go off and they learn how to set up a recording studio or a hair salon, and they've learned to set themselves up to this highest degree and to treat people with that same level of respect and dignity. And like, we need more. That's why the catchphrase for the donut shop is great communities need good donuts, but it's like they also need good barbershops, they need good restaurants, they need this. And what I mean by good is that it's something that slows people down, treats them with meaningful respect, keeps everybody safe, is not cutting corners just to make a profit. That's what there's a way to make a profit, be wildly successful, like Orlando said, and make an impact in your community. And they don't come at each other's expense. That's stage 4 thinking.
That's I think a misconception a lot of people have.
Yeah.
But I think, you really seem to be setting the right example. I think a lot of people could take notes from what you're doing, because, what's the downside? There's no downside. Those are the two things.
They can't
Wildly
take it away from
successful, and you're adding value to the community.
Yep.
That's everything right there.
And this whole, what happened during the pandemic with the donut shop, a friend of mine, Tim Schwing from up in Bergen County, came up with the idea. I was like, let's get as much, like, we made the donuts really inexpensive for this time around. The family box of 24 donuts used to be $20 at a street fair. And we dropped it down to $10 with a buy 3, get 1 free, so that people can give them out to their neighbors.
Took advantage of that. Did exactly that.
So that was the idea. It was like, make it super easy for people to do something good for the neighbors and bring a little bit of joy when people are bored and anxious. And my friend Tim said, let's put it to the hospitals. Like, these are really affordable. Let's buy as many donuts as we can to thank the healthcare heroes. And he collected overnight like close to $2,000 overnight. Basically, he said he posted the video, and by morning he had collected $1,000, and then by the following day he had finished it out, and like it was close to $2,000 of donuts to be donated. So it was like, that was I think that took us about 2 weekends to fill, and then it caught on. People were like, oh, we can be generous too. And so it was this idea that business was based on other people's generosity. We made it easy for them to be generous and kind to their neighbors, and then that actually carried the donut shop for us for the next month.
Wow.
And the reason we went to do the pandemic partnerships with restaurants was primarily, like, our urgency was Katie's hours got cut, the state funding got cut for quarantine, because apparently people don't need therapy during a pandemic, or the quality of the therapy is half the rate of what it. Come on. Yeah. So she lost about a lot of income from that, and we're like, we need to go out and find a way to make the donut shop work. We're going to do it in a way that adds value to the community.
No, it's great. So let's rewind a little bit. Let's go back to when you first started the business.
Yep.
What was that like, the process of starting a business from scratch?
I've never started a business before. So, like, as a completionist for me, I like to know everything there is to know. And it felt like jumping off a cliff or skydiving, which I've done both, and I hated it. When we went skydiving, the instructor actually had to push me out of the plane.
Oh, Jesus.
Because I'm that risk averse. So you see it in the video, he actually pushes me out of the plane. But that's what it felt like starting the business, because I didn't know all there was to know. I didn't know all that could go wrong. So I was like quickly grasping for as much information. I read all these books. I listened to podcasts. I interviewed professors and business owners. So I got tons and tons of information in. And my idea for a donut shop was it has to be a storefront where people can come hang out and create this space in the community that's really visible and predictable. And we didn't have the funds for that. Yeah. So I did it as a pitch competition Orlando organized at the school. I took second place, and they gave me 3 months of business coaching and $7,500 to buy the first set of equipment. So the 3 months of business coaching was perfect for me, needing some like information and a plan on paper. But it part of that coaching was you start with what you have, you do what you can with it, even if it's like, what we had was $7,500. So that couldn't afford rent or a storefront or a build out or an exhaust hood or anything like that you would need for a storefront. But it bought us a generator, a donut machine, a pop-up tent, some folding tables, and a couple t-shirts.
It's a start.
Yeah. And we've done that ever since, and haven't taken I took a small personal loan from my dad and from a friend, and I paid them both back. But everything else has been through the sale of donuts, and it's slowly building what's the culture that we want to build, because that's the most important thing that we're going to build the culture of the donut shop, set the expectations with staff, and then we're finding the right markets. So it started out as street fairs, beer fests, and then through doing that, we got invited to be the dessert vendor for the Stone Pony for the summer stage.
Nice.
So
Shout out to Stone Pony.
Every outdoor concert there had donuts at it for that summer.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then that opened some other doors, and private parties came from it. So it's, again, like each one of those is we're going to do this one street fair right. Yeah. As if these people at this street fair are the most important people here. And through that, you're like, oh, we booked a private party. We booked a wedding. We got this gig at this beer hall. This beer hall led to the Stone Pony.
So that's how it works. So everything's a stepping stone to the next thing.
Yeah.
And you just got to kind of set the right pace and keep the ideas behind it intact. And I got to imagine that, in the process of running a business, sometimes it could be easier to do it a different way. But if you kind of make a little sacrifice on what you believe in here.
Well, we had that moment of choice one day. We were at a beer fest, and most beer fests that you do are pretty generous, and you go there as a vendor, you pay your vendor fee, health and fire fees and stuff, and then they're pretty good about tasting cups, and you just drink as you work. This one was like really stingy about it. They required that each additional employee that was going to work in my shop had to pay the entrance fee of the festival. If you wanted to drink, you had to pay an additional fee, and there's all these extra little fees and stuff. And the people that were working it, the volunteers and the staff, all seemed miserable. So we set up on a Friday there, and then I went to dinner with my brother-in-law Tommy, and we both were just discouraged and frustrated and exhausted from that experience. And he said, well, do we want to do this all weekend, or do we want to change the temperature of the room there? So what would that look like? Well, we determined to be the most generous and the most optimistic people in there, even though everybody else is miserable. So we printed off 100 coupons for free donuts to every volunteer, and we passed out before the event opened, and said, you guys can come by and get donuts and coffee on us. And that changed the tone of the day. So now you got 100 people who have had donuts and caffeine, who are going into it maybe they didn't want to work there, they don't like the people they work with, but they had that little bit of
that little positivity to start off.
Yeah, and it changed the whole rest of the weekend for us.
Absolutely, that goes a long way, man. Like a little attaboy or a little something, a little olive branch extended.
Yep.
It makes a world of difference. And I've seen so many people that just don't get that. They think, they got to crack the whip on people. They got to, come on, let's go. We got to go. We got work to do. And they just kind of yell at people until, eventually the person breaks and does what they want.
You shit sucker.
Yeah. But that's the approach of so many people, and it just makes everything harder for everyone.
Yeah.
Like now you have to do something, you're unhappy, and it's not like you're concerned with making them happy. You're just like, I don't want to get fired. That's it.
Yep.
Like, whereas if you start off on a positive point, I mean, I don't think it'll work 100% of the time, but the overwhelming majority of the time, I think this approach would work. I mean,
You're not
still
going to
have
make everybody happy.
yeah, you're still going to have the occasional scumbag.
Uh-huh.
It happens. But if you are doing a job and you feel appreciated, it makes everything infinitely better.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't have to worry about some boss who's just bird dogging you, micromanaging everything you do. You know, you don't have to worry, if I mess up, I'm going to get screamed at by this idiot.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, if it creates that environment where there's like an understanding. Like, listen, we're all here to do a job. You know, if you are happy, you do your job better, that makes my life better.
Yeah.
And everybody, one hand washes the other.
Yep.
You know? So I just really wish that people would kind of understand that.
That's the noble cause of the donut shop.
Yeah.
We're going to inspire other businesses to start behaving like this.
So when you first started, like, what was the biggest shock? Like, what was the thing that you weren't expecting?
Oh,
You know, like, any curveballs come at you?
The very first event, like I had no idea how much stuff to bring. So we probably brought 100 pounds of donut mix to our very first event. And I staffed it with like 5 people, and we're ready to go. Like, all right, this is gonna be the best thing that's ever happened. And it flopped that day. It was the hottest street fair we'd ever seen. Like we had the Italian ice guy come and sit in our tent, complaining that it was too hot for people to buy Italian ice that day. So he's like, this is the worst. So it just setting the expectation of how much we're going to sell, how to staff things. I thought right off the bat we're going to be this huge success. And that wasn't the case right away. It's been a slow
Rarely
build.
ever is.
So yeah, I mean, those first year we maybe would go through like a quarter of what I brought, like maybe 25 pounds of donut mix on a good event.
At least you had extra.
Yeah, we were ready for it. I'm always like, I'd rather have and not need than need and not have.
Exactly. That's what I tell my apprentices. I'd rather be looking at it than looking for it.
Yeah.
You know?
Looking at it and looking for it. Yeah, that's great. I like that.
You can take that one to the bank.
Yeah, so you need to know where it is. What's the biggest shock? Not such a shock. The biggest learning moment for me was the first time I went to hire somebody that wasn't a family or friend. It was just like a recommendation of a friend,
Mm-hmm.
and it went really, really badly the first day we worked together. And it sent me back. You know, I always go back when I'm in conflict, I go back for information. Like, did I set this expectation for this girl? Did I clearly communicate that I don't want you smoking and being on the cell phone while we're making donuts? Like,
kind of a given.
I didn't set that expectation though. I thought that was implied. So I went and I wrote down all the expectations that I felt had been violated, but not communicated. And that set up, right, now I have this document that I can show and walk through people with. These are my expectations. Mm-hmm. Well, you'll have 3 shifts to work to meet these expectations. At the end of those 3 shifts, we both sit down and agree if this is going to work out for you. So having the validation, like the expectations validated on day 1 and then revisited and validated on the 3rd shift is helpful. But that first shift with that one girl was a shock. I gave her a second chance. We went over. I said, these are the expectations now. Do you think you can meet this? She said yes. She had some questions. I said, we'll talk about it on Saturday. Saturday came. She didn't show up to the event. I'm texting, I'm calling. Where are you? There's only 3 of us. And we need you. We need you to be the 3rd person here. This is a really busy event, and there's just 2 of us. You said you're going to be here. You're not here. She didn't show up. She texted me or called me she texted middle of the week saying like something nasty about you go have fun with your frat boys, and like, I'm sure you can get any frat boy to work this job. And
Jesus,
like, it was something clearly was not communicated or validated. I don't know what it was, but
I'm not even in a frat.
So yeah, we had that as an expectation, or that as a frustration and like a shock. Like, wow, it's going to take some intentional effort to clearly communicate with people what the expectations are, and to go back and validate that they heard and understood, and what they heard and understood is what was said.
Yeah. That communication's huge. Like, making sure they understand what's expected of them.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't really make that clear in the beginning.
Yep.
Like for me, in my line of work, I've experienced a lot of guys who just kind of tell you, all right, go do this, but they don't show you, they don't walk you through it. So if you don't already know, like, there's no way you would understand how things are, what exactly is expected.
Yeah.
Like all the little tiny details, you're probably going to screw up the first time.
Yeah.
But then instead of actually walking you through it, they're going to chastise you when you mess it up, inevitably.
Yep.
And it just makes that work environment so much harder for everyone involved. But a lot of people just don't have those communication skills.
It takes a lot of effort to make something seem effortless.
You have to be very intentional. Like, you have to be very clear and like above and beyond what would normally happen.
That's an interpersonal communication. I use the image of a drunken caveman for all my other like written imagery communications. Like, I need a drunken caveman to be able to go on my website and know how to buy donuts and where to pick them up. Because we work a lot of beer fests and a lot of drunk cavemen coming through and trying to figure out our menu. So I made all of our pictures like really big, clear pictures.
Very apt description.
And the price is right on there, the description of what it is, and a picture of it, so they can order donuts from our stand. I gotta get my website to that level of clear, like, no-brainer communication. Like, everything that we
idiot
do,
proof.
We gotta go idiot proof. Yeah. So.
All right. So we're getting close to the end here. I'm gonna do the two segments we do in the show. One, it's a new one. This is only the second time we're doing it, but pod jobs.
Pod jobs.
So do you recall a specific experience, maybe like the worst job you have? I mean, I know you mentioned sucking sewage out of a basement.
Worse than that.
So that's going to be hard to compete with, I think. But is there a memory you have of like the worst job, or like the worst day?
Worst day on that job. Yeah, it was that day when the lady like called me a shit sucker in her basement. And I was just destroyed. Like, I'm like, there's no way out of this basement. Like, it's dark and there's spider webs, and that's like, I'm in this, the extractor that I'm using is not actually working right. And the expectation was set for, like, she has in her mind, this is all going to be cleaned up and smelling nice by the end of the day. I couldn't meet that expectation for her. And like, that was an awful day. And it was coming at a time where I'm probably like three years into doing this work, and I'm already feeling discouraged and frustrated. So yeah, I told you, I went home. I remember sitting on the couch and like just broken, crying about it. It was so hard to deal with that. Like, who am I as a man?
Yeah, this is my life.
Yeah, that was bad. I'm laughing only because it got worse for other people. Like,
really,
the worst job that ever happened while I was there was this guy Isaiah. Was sent out to a job, and again, it was because the expectations were not communicated clearly. The customer called in and described the situation. The lady in the office agreed to the job and set a price without ever seeing what the job was.
Never do that.
They sent Isaiah there by himself to clean it up, and he was kind of new. What the job was described as, he should have been able to handle by himself. What it actually was like a 4 or 5 man job.
Oh my god.
So it was an abandoned like Chinese food restaurant, had been left for 6 weeks. The power was cut. All the food was left in the freezers. So now you've got rotting Chinese food that's been in their freezers for 6 weeks, and he filled up a van full of it and had to bring it back to the dumpsters. And the smell on the van, the smell on him, you couldn't get rid of that. It was
God.
So we actually pulled that van from service probably for about 6 weeks. We, as a professional odor remediation team, took us 6 weeks to get the smell out of that van.
I could only imagine. Jesus, I mean, that puts to shame like some of my worst stuff. Like, for me, like doing side work as an electrician, and everybody always has a little job. And I used to live in an apartment in Raritan. So the owner of my building, he owned about 4 or 5 other buildings right on Main Street. So he said, hey, listen, if you want, like, I have a couple odd jobs you could do if you want, and you just take it off the rent. I'm like, yeah, okay. But all the buildings were old. They were like 100+ years old. So one of the things that's common in old houses is, instead of sheetrock walls, they have plaster over the wood lath. Now, at the time, I'm used to doing new construction. Like, I had just topped out. I just finished my apprenticeship. So, and I had never even heard of the plaster and wood lath, and that's a major thing. If you have to add an outlet in there,
Oh yeah.
you have to cut a hole, and you have to make sure you cut the wood behind the plaster without the whole plaster crumbling off.
Yep.
Which it almost always does, and I didn't realize that. So I'm doing a job in this guy's office, and I'm cutting a hole. All of a sudden, like a space this big just kind of falls off.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what is this? Like, what is this wood behind here? I didn't even know what it was. Like, that's how little experience with that I had. So now I'm like trying to fix it, and I still have like 4 other things that need to be done, and I'm running out of time.
Yep.
Like, I'm trying to run a wire through into the basement, and I'm feeding it down this hole, and I can't find it. I don't know where it's coming out.
Because it's plaster is all this debris at the bottom.
Well, this was a whole separate thing. Like, literally, I was looking in a spot. I'm like, where is this wire? And it was about 5 feet over to the right the whole time.
Yeah.
I just didn't see it. So I wasted like an hour on that for something where I could have just went like that and found it.
Oh no.
But those are like my horror stories. Some of them just like getting in over your head with a job that you probably didn't have the experience for.
Yeah, poor Isaiah. I remember, like, we were all wondering, where is he? He just went to clean out this one fridge. That's all it was supposed to be.
This was only supposed to take
empty out a freezer. Turns out to be a walk-in freezer. He didn't know the difference. They said, but he came back as we're all driving out, and we see him at the dumpster, like unloading these bags, and there's things splashing everywhere. And I'm like, Isaiah, do you want help? He's like, nobody else should have to experience this. So he just like very humbly finished putting the last garbage bags in there.
This will be my last day.
Yeah,
we formally submit my resignation.
We put the garbage bags over his car seat so he could drive home.
Oh God.
We after that we installed a shower at the warehouse.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
All right, so moving into the last segment, humble pie. This is like our dessert after the main course. We share stories about the embarrassing things that happened to us, and even what we might have potentially learned from them. Sometimes it's not always like a serious lesson. Sometimes it's like, hey, you shouldn't drink SoCo for 4 hours straight, something like that. So my story is actually taking me all the way back to high school.
Okay.
So now when I went to Bridgewater from the time I was in first grade, and I graduated there, but there was a 1.5 year period where I moved to Pennsylvania and lived with my biological father for a little while.
Huh.
So I was starting off in this school, which I actually loved the school. Like, after the time I spent there, it just didn't work out with my dad. So there was this girl that I had met like my first week, and she's a cute girl. I was getting up the nerve to like ask her out and like get her phone number and all this stuff, which in high school is like, the Mount Everest. Like, how am I going to come up with the confidence to do this? So, and I was at the age I was getting the crustache going on. Like, I had to start shaving. So I was shaving one morning, getting ready for school, and I was going to ask this girl out, and I was trying to hurry up. My dad's yelling, like, come on, let's go, you're running late. So I'm shaving, trying to rush through it, which, as you know, is the worst thing you can do. And of course, I cut my lip while I was shaving, like the little area. So I cut it so bad where I took a whole chunk out. I almost looked like I had like a flesh mustache, like it was really bad. And of course now I still have to go to school. It's not like my dad's gonna let me stay home. So now I had to put like Vaseline on it to keep it from bleeding. It looked ridiculous. It looked terrible. So now, like, what am I gonna do? This girl, I already told this girl I was gonna meet her in this part of the building, first thing in the morning. And I'm walking to people like, yo, what happened to you, man? And I have to just like walk through the whole day, just completely humiliated, just mortified to even look at another human being. Needless to say, I didn't get to really ask her out.
Yeah.
She ended up going to prom with some other guy. And
that's rough.
It looked pretty bad. Hey, I learned a valuable lesson. Whenever you're shaving, slow down. Which came in handy, once I went bald. You didn't shave it, take your time. As soon as you rush, that's when the bad things happen.
I when I was learning to shave, I don't know, I probably was teaching myself, but same thing, like the peach fuzz. And I took the first thing, and then I saw, okay, there's hair in the razor. I don't know how to get that out. I guess I just And I
Yeah,
of
just
course it was like with a Mach 3 razor, and so I now had 3 clean slices along my finger.
Yeah.
I guess that's not how you do that.
Who would have thought? You just hold it under the water and shake it for a little
I
bit.
don't know. Nobody taught me.
Yeah, there's so many things, especially as a guy. Like, nobody really sits you down and says, "All right, here's how you do this."
Yeah.
You just kind of have to. It's a trial by fire.
You figure it out.
All right, man, you're up.
My embarrassing story. This is. I actually don't get embarrassed too terribly easy. The first time I can remember blushing, I was in high school, and it was at Katie's house when we were friends, and we were sitting. She was babysitting some kids, so they had Mary Poppins was on TV, and Katie's grandma walked in the room, and was like being real goofy. She's a crazy character. She's a funny lady, but she was doing this dance. I think she was wearing like a grandma skirt, and she decided to pull up the grandma skirt to show us her leg, and like you could see all of a sudden like the holster from her pantyhose up to her underwear, and she's acting like a goof, and then she addressed me.
Oh God.
And she said, "Oh, you look like Dick Van Dyke. You could do that." And for whatever reason, that just like was the most embarrassing thing for me, and my face went bright red because I'm sitting next to a girl that I kind of like, and then her grandma showed me her underwear and then talks to me. And I was bright red. I've never felt that before. I don't get embarrassed easily.
That hot face.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Ears are burning. Yeah. That was probably the most vivid time that I actually remember being physically embarrassed. And a moment I should have been embarrassed about, but wasn't aware enough in the moment, was, like I said, I got a job at a crisis counseling center.
Okay.
Right out of college. And my job there was not as a therapist or a counselor or anything. I was hired to come work with like a youth leadership team. And that was part of what they offered at the counseling center. Like a healthy outlet for kids to practice leadership and to mentor younger kids. So it was like high school kids mentoring middle school kids was kind of my role.
Okay.
But I was in the office and there was no therapist available, and this girl comes in with a crisis, pretty serious, heavy crisis, and I won't reveal the details of it, but she needed to unload on somebody, and I was the only one there. There's no therapist available, and she gives me all the details of this crisis and her indecision, and she's weeping through it, and I'm just like, not my job. I'm not ready for this. I have nothing to offer you. And she gets to the end of this really heavy decision and says, I just don't know what to do. Like, I know what my heart wants to do, and I know what my head wants to do, and I don't know which one to follow. And I said, well, just follow your nose. Like Toucan Sam says, just follow your nose. It's not the right thing to say, but it came out. And fortunately, she laughed at it, and she got, okay, this is a moment of levity. Mm-hmm. and she started laughing again, and it brought her out of like this deep crisis moment. But I'm like, that's the moment that I learned I'm not a therapist. I'm going to work with at-risk kids, but I'm not going to be their counselor or their therapist or psychologist or anything. Like, I'll work with them in a donut shop.
I feel like that's like my whole approach here. Like, I'm not a therapist. I don't know what the right thing is. We're just going to talk about how little we know together, you know?
Just follow your nose.
Follow your nose. Oh. That's a good one. I wouldn't even have thought of that to say in the moment.
I was so nervous. What am I supposed to say? What does she expect from me?
Yeah, zippity doo dah. All right, Ryan. Thank you so much for doing this, man. I enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me. Teaching me the ropes here.
Hey, no problem, man. Are you going to be starting one of your own one of these days?
Yeah, we're going to do a Good Donut Shop podcast on how to add value to your community by celebrating and supporting what's already good in the community.
I like it.
So that's the idea behind the podcast that I'm going to do.
So you want to tell the listeners where they could find you?
Yeah. We're on Instagram at Instagram handle is Good Donut Shop. All one word, no spaces, no the. So Good Donut Shop on Instagram.
Donut, D-O-N-U-T.
D-O-N-U-T. Yep. And some people like to put extra P's and E's in the word shop, but it's just Good Donut Shop.
Donuts,
the easiest way you can spell it.
O-U-G-H. No, not like that. Nice and simple.
D-O-N-U-T. And then the website is thegooddonutshop.com. So there is a the for the website, thegooddonutshop.com. I don't know when this will come out. We're doing Father's Day donuts,
okay,
which are really fun. six full-size donuts. For the first time ever, we're doing full-size donuts. The rest of the time, it's minis. So you get 6 full-size donuts, 24 mini donuts. Some of these tattoo sleeves that I brought you, I'm gonna give you one.
Oh, nice. I add it to the collection.
Beard oil sampler.
Oh.
Smell that. Open up. There's a
one.
little cap in there too. But this is custom made from. You gotta flip the cap on that too. It's donuts, bourbon, coffee, a little bit of cinnamon.
Bourbon in there.
Yeah.
Good
So that'll
donut
be-
shop beard oil.
Yeah.
Wow, man, you're really branching out.
That'll be a first like peripheral product. I don't even have T-shirts or hats or anything, but now we have beard oil.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You know, really targeted. I'm right in the demographic for that.
That's it. All right, thanks for having me.
Hey, my pleasure,
This
man.
is fun.
Where can they find the good donut shop? Like, where are you guys going to be?
So
coming up?
we're a pop-up donut shop. Don't have a storefront of our own.
Mm-hmm.
For Father's Day, you can pick up your boxes in downtown Somerville at Turf, Surf, and Earth, and that'll be our last day there.
Okay.
The next thing up is we're going to be partnering up with the Gourmet Deli on Main Street.
Okay.
And we'll expand the schedule as soon as daycare's open and stuff. But we're going to start moving equipment in there, and we'll have another predictable presence on Main Street, Somerville, at the Gourmet Deli.
All right, guys. Make sure you follow them on Instagram. Make sure thegooddonutshop.com
Yep.
for all the locations and upcoming events. Again, thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
So, guys, ladies, gentlemen, you guys know where to find us already. If you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure you subscribe and like. That helps a lot with the algorithm. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at APodAmongstMen and reach out to us through DMs. Our email address is apodamongstmen@gmail.com for any long-form questions, comments, or concerns. And, make sure you listen wherever you get your podcasts. iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. Wherever you get your podcast, we are there.
Like and review.
There you go. Make sure you subscribe, guys. But until next time, we'll see you later. Peace.